Testing, testing, one, two, three. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Potpourri Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Sims, and today we're diving deep into a topic that touches many but is often shrouded in silence: mental health stigma. If you can see me or hear me, definitely go ahead and put a thumbs up. And the one thing is, our podcast today is about breaking the stigma, a candid conversation on mental health. Jessica, can you hear me? I see you on the line. Is that a no?
I can hear you. Sorry.
Great, great, great. And we're just waiting for other people to come in too as well. Lamora, can you hear me? I know I invited you as the co-host speaker. There you are. You're
I
there.
can hear you very well.
Great, great, great. One thing is, as someone passionate about holistic wellness and mental health advocacy, I've observed how stigma can create barriers to seeking help. And let's explore this together and see how we can change the narrative. Are you guys ready? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, we are.
Oh, we do some active participation here. Y'all was like, yeah, he too energetic for me, but it's quite all right. Setting the stage. One thing we have to understand: what mental health stigma looks like, its effects on individual society. Mental health stigma often appears in two forms. Let me say that again. Mental health stigma often is viewed in two forms. And what does that look like? Social stigma and self stigma. Mental health stigma is a pervasive issue that manifests through stereotypes, discrimination, and social exclusion directed at individuals experiencing mental health issues. Here's a concise discussion just for this moment segment on its appearance and its impacts, which is what mental health stigma looks like. Mental health stigma often appears in two forms, which is social stigma and self stigma. Social stigma involves the negative attitudes and the behaviors others exhibit towards individuals with mental health conditions. This can range from subtle avoidance to outright discrimination, where people are treated differently or less favorably due to their mental health status. Self stigma occurs where individuals internalize those negative perceptions, leading to feelings of shame, inadequacy, and a reluctance to seek help or mental treatment. This can exacerbate isolation and hinder recovery. I want you to actually look at what that means. Go ahead, Jessica. If anybody have some comments right now, this is the perfect opportunity for us to look at the definitions of social stigma and self stigma. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid to come off mute.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree in terms of the stigma. It's definitely one of the largest barriers to folks receiving access to mental health care. So, what I do in my organization is that we reduce those barriers to accessing mental health care, and one of the biggest ones is finances. So that's my sphere is giving out finances to support mental health care. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into this conversation with you. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. And Lamar, what about you? Go ahead and tell us something about social stigma and self stigma too, as well.
so for me, in regards to social self stigma, I do a lot of work surrounding self compassion, um, doing just helping people to not to focus on the self judgment, being so harsh on themselves, and a lot of mindset. So the theory of cognitive behavioral therapy, just changing negative thought patterns
Mm-hmm.
associated with self stigma is really good. And then education and awareness. Like it's important that we begin to educate individuals a lot about mental health so that we're able to demystify what people tend to believe, because a lot of times what I realize is that, especially with a lot of my male clients, black male clients, they'll come in and they says, okay, do I need to lay on the couch? And it's like, no, you just get comfortable, do what you want to do. And like I remember a young black boy, he thought that he was coming in to see an old white man for therapy. And so it's just changing the mindset. Education and awareness is important so that people can understand. And it's not coming in for judgments, like, that this is a partnership. Like I'm really big on clients coming in and understanding that we're working collaboratively together, in order to help. And even the other thing too is just thinking about it from just more of a holistic wellness approach is also important for me too. So that it's not just deemed as something that's therapy and theory.
I love it from that perspective. And also, Jessica, that was great. I think what we have to understand the effects that it have on individuals too. For individuals, the effects of stigma can be devastating. And don't you agree? Sometimes there be reluctance to self-help. Stigma often prevents people from accessing mental health services due to fear of judgment or discrimination. And also that is really high. Being the African American male myself, that was high in something that I didn't see. Because I'm looking like people taught me that mental health was not realistic. So I was like, where am I going? But when I was able to go and actually see what a therapist was and things like that, I was able to get the knowledge and dictate what I wanted for myself. Worsening mental health stigma can lead to increased stress, depression, and anxiety, further impacting on an individual's well-being. And I mean that with a heartfelt welcome. Isolation, people may withdraw from family, friends, or community to avoid stigma, leading to social isolation and loneliness. Let's talk about effects on individuals. Anybody can go at this time. Jessica or Lamora, we're wide open. This is Potpourri Podcast.
Yeah, I can. I'll start. So I definitely have experienced some mental health challenges, and I can attest to the fact that isolation is a real thing. You know, when you are dealing with something so heavy, a lot of times you don't want to reach out for help, or you maybe want people to notice and reach out themselves. But you know, sometimes we really do have to speak up and advocate for ourselves. Um, but yeah, it can be really isolating. That shame can be crippling. That fear, that anxiety, all those feelings can actually be like somatic symptoms in your body that really like make it hard to do your everyday living or everyday life, get your work done. And so, yeah, it can be really challenging if you don't have the right support system. And so I really always advocate for people to be in community, to have people who are around them, who can really see them, who can check in on them, who can be that compassionate voice for them, that soft place to land. And I found that that is incredibly helpful for a person's healing journey.
I love how you said that, Jessica. Somebody to check in with. One thing is people don't check in, but as therapists, we need check in too as well. Because what about our mental health too as well? But go ahead, Lamar. Let's definitely talk about the actual effects on individuals.
So I know as far as just working with a lot of male clients, I'll say, it's just that historical mistrust with the isolation. So as a result, they tend to lack the trust when it comes to healthcare, just across the board, as far as just even being open to breaking the silence. And it just causes them to isolate, like Jessica was saying. And so it's just building that trust. I think that trust is so important. And oftentimes just the cultural competence, and oftentimes people tend to feel that just because we are both African American, that there's some relatability. And it's not always the case, because how you grew up and what your experiences are may not be mine. And it's still cultural competence within our own community is important, so that we're able to effectively support and relate, to the needs of our clients as well. Definitely in order to help them to break that silence.
That's definitely is great, and breaking the silence is what we need across the globe, in every culture, not just black and brown and black and brown girls and black and brown boys. We need it across the global effort too as well. But let's look at the effects on society. At societal level, stigma can lead to significant social and economic costs. Reduced productivity. Untreated mental health issues can result in decreased productivity at work. Did you know that? Affecting economic output. Sometimes social division. Stigma contributes to a divide between those with mental health conditions and those without, undermining social cohesion. And also healthcare costs. Stigma and the resultant avoidance of treatment can lead to higher long-term health costs as conditions worsen without adequate intervention. Come on, let's talk about that, Jessica and Lamora. I know we have some other people on, so I already invited you to be a co-host speaker. But also for those who are listening, make sure you drop your questions in the chat too as well. All right?
So I definitely feel like it definitely creates issues in the workplace. And one thing that I want to just go into is that a lot of times the many workplaces, they have the EAP put into place, in order to help with the loss of productivity and workplace turnover and all of those things. And I think that is the
You're going in and out, Lamora.
compensation for,
Lamora,
yes.
you're going in and out.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so one thing that I have concerns about, I'm definitely in support of the EAP services that they put into place for the employees, but that's where the concerns come in for me when it comes to clinicians that are providing the services, because the fees that are assessed for EAP services for clinicians is not adequate. And so what happens is that there's a lack of support in many cases for therapists to provide EAP services in order to support individuals in the workplace. So that's where we have to figure out a way in order to compensate therapists for the services.
Oh wow, wow. That's interesting. I love it the way you put a turn on EAP because basically what you're looking at somebody who's providing services, but are they really providing services? So let's talk more about that.
Well, a lot of times because of what's paid out,
Exactly.
a lot of clinicians they're not willing to put in a lot of effort.
Hmm.
EAP services, they're going to offer 3 sessions, and a lot of times some clinicians feel like, okay, there's no longevity. There's only 3 sessions. So how much
Hmm.
work can I do for 3 sessions? So it's either you have some where they're either not going to accept those clients, or others are not going to be as effective with clients.
Wow. Most of like some are three, some are six too as well. Jessica, do you have anything you want to say about that too as well?
Just a couple things. I remember, so I'm not a clinician, just to say that.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm a
Look, you're a person. You're a
I'm a,
clinician.
yeah, I'm a mental health advocate. So just
Yes. Everybody has a belly button.
see where I'm speaking from. But I do
Yeah.
remember when I was just an employee at a particular organization, they said, we have our EAP, and that's all they said. It's like we have it. They they never really described what it was. They never really described how to access those benefits, how many sessions we have, and so I think that that's the problem in organizations that I've seen is that they don't do a good job. Like HR doesn't do a good job of actually breaking down what those benefits are and how you can utilize them. Will you be penalized? I've had conversations with people who are saying they are afraid to, tell their boss that they are going to therapy because they don't want retaliation. They don't want to, be looked at or labeled because, oh, you're slacking in work. Is it because that you are going through something right now and, you gave me this information in confidence, but now I'm using it against you type of thing. So I know that there is a lot of layers with this conversation around EAP and just accessing therapy in the workplace.
I'm just glad we had this discussion because the thing is, what does that look like from a holistic approach when HR has provided EAP or federal occupational health too as well, and you are only allowed at 6 sessions? And what does that mean for you? Because number one is I know in counseling you get diced. I say diced because basically you're giving so much information, and then you have to uproot yourself and talk to other people about the same diagnosis that you've given before. But then again, it comes to another person, which could be very subjective on the assessment and everything like that too as well by their nature and by their culture too as well. So I think what we still have to understand what's the continuity of therapy within the whole thing, and there's a stigma within therapists too as well. So I think one thing we have to understand, number one, is we have to be addressing what is that continuity? What is our language? What is our study that we have studied to make sure that, number one, there's a continuity of the therapist services and also being able to access and definitely diagnose the people in which this EAP or FOH, which is Federal Occupational Health, have already addressed, which is 6 sessions, which is not long enough particularly, but that's what they prescribe. So I just want to leave that right quick because addressing mental health stigma is crucial not only for improving individual lives, but also for fostering a healthier, more inclusive society. Breaking down those barriers involves education, open conversations. You hear me, y'all? I said it. Open conversations. I don't care what you say. I said it. You can say Jeremy B. Sims said that. We need to have open conversations about this. And policy changes. I'm going to say that because I am a policy driven person. That we need to have policy changes that prioritize mental health parity and support. So right now we're going to turn it over to our panel, those who are on the top, which is Jessica and Lamora. Understand that Jessica is a mental health advocate and Lamora is a licensed therapist too as well. So I want to make sure that we give a brief intro for our guests, and also I want them to tell about their background in mental health, starting with Lamora.
Okay, so I'm a licensed clinical social worker and actually a certified addictions professional. And I primarily work with individuals to help them to resolve trauma, a lot of trauma that they may have dealt with during childhood or also relationship trauma. I also support women through Empowering the Self method. And my mission in that area is simply to help women embrace healing and make self a non-negotiable part of their lives.
That was so interesting. And now, Jessica.
Yeah, so I am the founder and executive director of an organization called the Mental Health Emergency Fund Incorporated. It is
Oh,
based here in Baltimore, Maryland, and so our mission really is to destigmatize the need for therapy in Black and Brown communities by providing pathways for accessibility, affordability, and knowledge sharing. And so our primary program is a stipend program that we are doing quarterly, where we're able to give out $500 stipends to community members to access out-of-pocket costs who are not able to afford therapy.
thank you both. Thank you both. I hope you guys hear that out there in podcast land, because we got a live cast here on air where Jeremy Sims is the host, and we are with Lamar and Jessica, and we are talking Can We Talk Potpourri podcast, mental health and the stigma. So here are our round table questions, and anybody can take any one of the three at any particular time. No choice, no favor, no anything. So I'm going to read number one. Can you share a personal experience where stigma affected you or someone else's mental health journey? Make sure that you say that again. Can you share a personal experience where stigma affected you or someone else's mental health journey? Go right ahead.
I'll
Anybody? Go
start.
ahead.
Yes. So I'll speak from my own personal experience. So I have a background in the church. Like I'm a Christian, and so I've grown up in the church, and I've found that struggling with mental health challenges in the church definitely can be. There's definitely a stigma there. There's not enough education around, you know, believing and being a praying woman while also having mental health challenges, and so I find that there's definitely stigma there. And then I layer if I want to layer that with taking medication for healing. There's also a stigma there because there's this notion that you should just believe God and pray and you'll be healed miraculously. And so I have found some friction in that environment. But that's what makes me become such a proud advocate for this, is because it's a both and for me, not an either or.
And guess what, Jessica? Thank you for your advocacy, because guess what? At the end of the day, we can pray all we want to, but if we are not doing the necessary work, it's the work that we must manifest. And I had a conversation with someone when I was in Tampa earlier about the work. Sometimes we become so entangled within rituals and traditionalist religion that we are not building our faith. So I'm gonna leave it right there, because that's a whole nother topic. We're gonna talk on our other potpourri podcast. Go ahead, Lamora.
So I haven't had a personal experience, but I'm glad that Jessica actually mentioned in relation to the church. So the only thing that I can really add that in regards to that, I concur. And so the work that I've been actually doing, especially this month with mental health awareness, is helping to reduce the stigma, because a lot of times, growing up in a Baptist church, everything is about just praying or about a situation. So if you're depressed, just pray about it. And, praying is great, but we also have to realize that we have to deal with real life issues. And so we have to explore what are the areas that people are experiencing, and how can we support them from a clinical perspective and not just from a spiritual perspective. So it's just increasing the awareness. And there's some growing recognition that I'm finding in several of the Baptist churches, one being my own, that we're helping people to become more informed and educated when it comes to mental health, and helping them to understand that it's okay, that everyone struggles with some areas. I tell people all of the time, and especially during that period of COVID, I said at the end of the day, we've all had an adjustment period. And so when we're talking about diagnoses and labels and things like that, we've all suffered from an adjustment disorder in some way or another when it came to COVID. So we have to just help people to understand that life will bring about situations that will bring about those challenges that will cause some mental health issues that has to be addressed. So thank you, Jessica, for bringing that up, because that was definitely a good
You're
point.
welcome.
No, Lamar and Jessica, you're spot on. Because the thing is, we so stay in faith and believe in prayer and things like that. Not saying that prayer doesn't work, but it's a lot more effort than prayer. And I want people to understand that because prayer is just exactly what it is. So my thing is, he said, make your request known unto God. But the thing is, are they your requests or are you still in a ritualistic or traditional prayer motion? My thing is, sometimes we have to shave off and unlearn what we have learned to make sure that we are appreciating God for who he is in ourselves and not through our grandparents and parents too as well. So stop listening to the common society guru or the common society things that we continually listen to where people say prayer but also believe in the faith and the healing that God will provide. So here we are. What do you think are the most common misconceptions about mental health that contribute to stigma? Anybody can go. What do you think are the most common misconceptions about mental health that contribute to stigma?
I think it's been said before, but I know a lot of people think that therapy is just for white people, and obviously that is not the case. And I think that, just lack of representation in the field is a reason why a lot of people of color are not, being seen, is because there aren't enough professionals that look like them. But on the other side of it, there are more and more people that are getting licensed, that are, in the field and that are actively seeing clients. And so I think, again, representation matters so, so much. And just that access piece, which is why I'm such a big advocate and proponent of people accessing therapy, accessing people who look like them, and not and shame really dies in those public places. And so I think that that is a big part of it, is knowing that it is for us, it can be for us, and we are starting to really take up space in this field.
I love it, Jessica. Oh my gosh, you're like my number one cheerleader right now. Lamora, what's next? Let's go. Let's go.
So the others are a few others is the personal weaknesses. Like if you have a mental health issue, it's a sign of a personal weakness, and that you're lacking willpower to do better for yourself, which is a misconception that a lot of times that mental illnesses are not real illnesses, that it's not just as important as a medical condition that people often talk about. Let me see. The others that people think about, that sometimes, and definitely when it comes to individuals that suffer from schizophrenia, that those with mental issues are violent or unpredictable. So those are the three that I can think of right now.
Wow. That's a whole nother topic. We have like three other things that we can talk about on this Potpourri podcast. That's why I'm so available to have this open session with you guys where we're on air, Podbean Live here with Jeremy Sams on the Rise Creating a Voice podcast, where we are creating our voices right here on this podcast, where this is live and on the air. We are doing actually a live podcast right now where after this fact that we can just drop it and it goes live immediately. So you can pull this wherever you are. It's on all streams and all platforms too as well. I just thank you guys both for this because basically, if we look at the misconceptions, the one thing that I see, number one, is that we don't do enough in mental health. That's the misconception. And the one thing you guys talked about was, oh, pray yourself out of it. You can keep praying, but what does that do? I'm gonna sit there right there because the one thing is that I continue to think about is if you don't do the necessary work, seeking a mental health therapist and actually seeing what that root cause is, You'll just be beating a drum that's not going to go anywhere. You're just beating a drum. So I think what we need to understand is who we are, why we're here, and what is going on specifically inside of us, and what caused that root trauma, right? So the last question. Oh, go ahead, Lamar.
Oh
I
no,
saw you
I
come
was
off
just
mute.
saying right. I was just
I'm sorry. The thing is, people don't. People that be out here, people, and I've seen so many cases where people are just they're saying so many wrong things, but they don't identify them having a mental health issue. And I'm gonna leave that right there. A lot of people have a lot of mental health issues, but they don't address it as a mental health issue. They say that's just them. I'm gonna leave it right there. So my third question: how can individuals and communities combat mental health stigma effectively? Let's go ahead. Anybody can go.
I think discussions like this are a great start. And also the conference that brought us together, the Can We Talk Symposium, these are wonderful platforms to really bring it into the light, that to have these conversations so that people can know that it's a safe place to talk about your struggles, talk about what it looks like, talk about what it looked like in maybe previous generations and what it's looking at like in generations beyond us, because it does change from generation to generation in terms of how it shows up. So I think that talking about it is great. I think that you know, being a voice for it in different ways, whether it's using your social media platforms, or whether it is putting money towards advocacy work like I do. There are a number of ways to break that stigma and to bring it into the light.
So Jessica, are you telling me to do this monthly or weekly? I'm trying to make sure what you're telling me. What are you saying? Because this is this.
However often you feel it in your spirit, I guess.
I feel it. Whatever you tell me to do, Jessica. Because you know what, I believe in God and the Holy Spirit. Because guess what? At the end of the day, we all met for a reason. And that's why I'm here. Because the thing is, I was able to offer the platform so we can make this whatever you guys want. I'm all inclusive. Amen. Come on, Lamar, let's go.
I definitely agree with Jessica with the open conversations. And, when we talk about mental health, just understanding that anxiety can look like us as mental health advocates and mental health professionals being overwhelmed and stressed and dealing with anxiety on a day-to-day basis. But people will say, girl, you just overwhelmed. You just got a lot on your plate. And I could be suffering from generalized anxiety disorder if we use the diagnosis codes, and so we have to simplify through the open conversations what that actually looks like, because I think people tend to feel like mental health is some big thing, and it becomes it's not relatable to them, so they'll live life and just feel like they're overwhelmed and not understanding that it's associated with mental health. So I definitely agree with Jessica with that, and definitely utilizing your influence. We have to definitely promote a positive understanding of mental health. um Definitely supporting mental health initiatives. So, like Jessica is helping to support uh, individuals that require some form of counseling services. And so, how can we support her initiative by raising visibility, or helping with mental health awareness campaigns, walks, fundraisers, whatever that looks like, so that we're able to just work collectively as a group in order to help with that. And challenging stigmas when we see it. Like sometimes we just have to open our mouth and correct people about misconceptions and providing factual information. Stop just standing around and let people say things that are so incorrect. Like I get sick of people talking about narcissistic personalities and everybody's a narcissist and things like that. We have to start correcting people right then and there when situations come up. And definitely education and awareness. That's just one thing that we can continue to talk about with the open conversations. Doing workshops, um, just discussions, formal discussions or informal discussions, I think is also important.
And I'm down for the informal discussions. We can do it right here on air live, and you can invite as many people as you want because guess what? This is an open pod being live that we have addressed, we have put out there and put here, so we can have these conversations. So if that's what you guys want, you tell me because I'm ready. Y'all ready?
We're definitely
I'm
ready.
all about the business. I'm standing on business.
Yeah, yes, we're ready. I
Okay.
definitely feel like, because if I'm understanding like with Jessica correctly, is that she does a little bit what the Boris L. Henson Foundation does, because
Mm-hmm.
they support with 5 free sessions for individuals. And I think with Jessica, from my understanding, that's what she does. I feel like it's important to support that initiative, because she's giving back to a community of individuals that need the mental health services, and they
Right.
can't afford it. Like for myself, I do like $50 sessions. So sessions are
Right.
150. So because I have registered clinical interns, I'll do fifty
Right.
dollar sessions. So I feel like in
And that's
certain
the
ways we
sliding
have to
fee.
just, yes.
Let them know
So
that's
we
that
have to be
sliding
able to
fee
support.
scale.
Right. So we have
Yeah.
to be able to support one another with those initiatives, because it's important. We can't get the funding just out of air. It has
Right.
to come through the support of
Right.
one another.
And in my coaching, I do sliding fee scales too as well because basically everybody can afford my coaching.
Right.
But if you come with a need base, and I definitely assess what a need base is because we do have some scammers. I keep it real. We have scammers out there that don't say they do what they do. So I have to do the necessary work to do what I have to do too as well. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that on everything, regardless of what they do, making sure that we do the necessary work to address their need and also to increase their mental health awareness and everything else too as well. And Jessica, do you have anything to say of Lamar's comment?
I was just gonna say thank you for even comparing me to the BL Henson Foundation, because I'm just getting started, and I know that they are huge, and I would love to be at that level one day. But
And you will be.
you're absolutely right. Yes, thank
Jessica,
you.
you will be. I
And
said
Thank
it.
Jessica,
you.
that's where we have
Jessica,
to
you
stop.
will be.
And that's where we have to stop. Always, we look at the smaller agencies, and
Yeah.
we provide more impact. And it's not to discredit a lot of the larger agencies, but that's where everybody, they channel the focus to. But
Mhm.
you're making an impact, and that's something that
Exactly.
we cannot dismiss.
In the Baltimore area, come on now. That's an
Yes.
impoverished area.
Yes, it
Let's keep
is.
it real. I'm going to keep it real because I don't have no other way to keep it real. You in an impoverished area, it ain't Los Angeles or California or something like that. You in Baltimore. That's a very impoverished area. So we must understand what that looks like for an individual. And one thing I want to definitely and just intake, if y'all don't mind me intaking, is some people look at the areas, oh well, this is this, that, and the third. But look at the statistics and look at everything else. You have to manage what that looks like on a mental health level, on the poverty level, on the poverty level, the income, the mode, the income too as well, to make sure that we are addressing what the needs are individually. Okay. So we want to make sure that we have some audience engagement. I know we don't have any audience on here, but we want to encourage our listeners to submit their experience and questions via social media or email. You can go to jsim092 at outlook.com, and you can go to my website at www.jbsims.com and actually go to context if you have any questions or anything that you want to ask during this podcast too as well. So, our last and final questions. What changes would you like to see in how we talk about mental health in your community? Jessica and Lamora, let's go.
I
That's
personally would like to see more involvement from the politicians and the
Mm,
community leaders.
say that again. I want you to say that real
Yes.
loud because you know this going to
I
go everywhere.
Okay, well, I want to see more involvement from the politicians and the community leaders when it comes to mental health, both from the community level in providing, in having services available, and from the clinician level in providing funding for the clinicians to provide effective services. That's
Right.
what I want to see. Come on, Jessica,
Yes,
because we need funding over there for you
we
too.
do.
That
I
part.
love your answer. A couple came to mind. One of the first things that came to mind was more conversations among family members. I would love to
Mm.
see that intergenerationally, because these things are passed down from generation to generation, and you know, your grandma's been dealing with stuff that you would have never known because she never opened up her mouth and told you, right? So I would love to see more conversations happening amongst families, even like family therapies, siblings going in together, you know, whatever the case is. I would love to see that. And then I would also love to see more support in the workforce, where it's just an open culture that, you know, like I said before, people aren't afraid of retaliation if they do need to see a therapist during the workday or something like that. Just open culture in different organizations around therapy. And I would love there to also be better support on college campuses. I know that most college campuses have, you know, some sort of counseling center, but it's usually very understaffed. They have so many, you know, clients, and the quality is not great at all. So I would love to see more support there, because our young people really go through such pivotal changes in the college year.
Oh my gosh, Jessica, I just fell all in love with you all over again. I don't know who you are, but at the end of the day, this is so important because we specifically for HBCUs getting into the college life, because a lot of people have anxiety being in the college arena specifically, and we don't address that too as well. Go ahead, Lamore. I saw you come off mute.
Oh no, I was saying I'm loving Jessica as well because
Exactly. Everybody loves Jessica.
listen, I love Jessica already. Look,
Jessica,
I'm
my
telling you,
friend. Lamore, you gonna look for
yes,
her too?
I'm looking for Jessica. I already think I remember Jessica too. I read Jessica's bio, so I think I already know who Jessica is.
Oh
But I'm
wow.
Y'all are
definitely
too
going to look for that
sweet.
because, you know, HBCUs is definitely something that because
Say that again.
I definitely wanted to pitch them about helping support some form of integrating mental health
Yeah.
curriculum or support into the college campuses as well, because it's
Yes.
definitely a need for that. So I'm
Yes.
definitely, that's so true. And Jessica, you're definitely spot on when it comes to
Definitely
intergenerational,
spot
because a lot
on.
of times I start with the family of origin when every client comes in, and they don't realize it's just through the questions. They don't realize until that reflecting moment when they start thinking about growing up, communication, what love and affection looks like, and all of those things. They don't connect the dots until that moment that there were some things that were going on in their families that they really didn't realize that there were some mental health issues that needed to be addressed at the time. So thank you for that as well.
That is great, great. Anybody else have questions or anything like that too as well? Like I tell people, because we are looking at the Can We Talk Symposium. So if you don't can drop in the pet chat and you're just on listening mode, definitely try to drop in the chat on the Can We Talk Symposium, which is happening here in the Gaylord at the National Harbor on the 30th and the 31st, and the symposium is the 31st. And we have a throwback 80s and 90s thing on the 30th too as well, and it's sponsored by Raji P Henson, and making sure that we are able to attend. All right, so as we look at everything else, what does this look like? 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 How do we support someone facing mental health challenges? The one thing is supporting someone facing mental health challenges involves empathy, patience, and understanding approach. Here are some practical tips to effectively support individuals struggling with mental health. Number one, listen without judging. Be an active listener. Offer your full attention. Listen more than you speak. Let me say that again. Listen more than you speak. Let me say that again. Listen more than you speak. Allow them to share their feelings and experience without interrupting or offering unsolicited advice. Some people try to provide opinions, and it's very unsolicited. Stop trying to solicit your advice and provide therapy thing. If you are talking to someone, please talk to a certified or licensed professional. Please and thank you. We said that. Educate, create a safe space. Make it clear that you are there to listen without judgment, helping them to feel safety and express themselves openly. Number two, educate yourself about mental health. Understand the basics. Learn about common mental health conditions and their symptoms. Knowing the challenges your friend or family member is facing can help you provide better support. Be aware of misconception. Challenge your own beliefs and misconceptions about mental health. This can help you avoid stigmatizing attitudes and behaviors. Offer practical help. Assist with daily tasks. Sometimes daily tasks can become overwhelming for someone dealing with a mental health issue. Offering help with chores, errands, or appointments can be a big relief. Provide information on resources. Help them find mental health professionals or support groups. Offer to assist with making appointments if they find process daunting. You have to understand everybody that talk to you in a mental health issue and things like that may not process as you may process. So understand and offer to assist with making appointments if they find the process daunting. Encourage professional help. I already said that. Promote professional help and support. Gently encourage them to seek help from mental health professionals. You can offer support through them to process, like accompanying them to an appointment if they are anxious about going along. I've done that with several of my clients and my ambassadors is what I call them. Respect their pace. Y'all don't do that often. Remember that they deciding to seek help is a personal decision and it needs to be made in their own time. I tell people a lot. Make it in your own time. Because my time is not your time. Your time is your time. Check in regularly. Stay in touch regularly. Check-ins can make a big difference. A simple message asking how they are doing can show that you care and are there for them. Be consistent. Be consistent in your efforts to check in, offering ongoing support either than a one-off gesture. Support their recovery journey. Celebrate small victories. Acknowledge and celebrate small steps of progress. This encourages them to keep moving toward their recovery journey. Be patient. Recovery can be a slow process with ups and downs. We've all had ups and downs. Showing patience and understanding during setbacks is crucial. And number one thing is take care of yourself. Set boundaries. Supporting someone with a mental health challenge can be emotionally draining. Set healthy boundaries to ensure you're also taking care of your own mental health. And seek support for yourself. If you find it overwhelming, consider yourself seeking support for yourself as well. This can be taken to a professional or joining a support group for caregivers. By implementing these tips, you can provide meaningful support to someone facing mental health challenges, helping them to feel valued, understood, and less isolated in their journeys. As we have our panel today, what do you think about Jessica and Lamora?
That was an incredible list. There is nothing I have to add to that. You covered it all, in my opinion.
Jessica, I so much heart you so much. Heart, heart, heart. I'm gonna write a heart. I'm gonna buy it like before the conference and say, I heart Jessica. Go ahead, Lamar. And I heart you
No,
too,
I
Lamar. Don't
agree.
get it twisted.
Oh no, listen, I'm good. I'm good. We loving Jessica right now. No, I
That
think you
part.
did an amazing job with the list. I can't think of anything else.
All right, all right. So last but not least, I want to provide resources for those seeking help with mental health issues. It's crucial. Here are some general types of resources that can be recommended, including websites, hotlines, and local organizations. Websites, National Alliance on Mental Health, which is NAMI, which is N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, M as in mental, and I as in illness. Offers extensive resources on mental health issues, including guides on how to find support and treatment options. If you want that email, that web address is www.nami.org, and that's M as in Nancy, A as in Alliance, M as in mental, and I as in illness.org. Mental Health America, MHA, provides information on mental health conditions, self-assessment tools, and treatment resources. That's www.mhanational.org. And for those who are listening outside of our regional area, which is in the UK, offers advice and support to empower anyone experiencing a mental health problem and campaigns to improve services and awareness. www.mind.org.uk. Any hotlines, we have the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which is in the US, a national network of local crisis centers that provides free and confidential emotional support to providing suicide crisis or emotional distress. It's available 24/7, 365 days of the year at 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255. Crisis Tech Line is global. It offers free 24/7 support for those in crisis. Text 741 in 741 in the US or Canada, or 85258 in the UK, or 50808 in Ireland to communicate with a trained crisis counselor. Samaritans in the UK provides emotional support to anyone in emotional distress or at risk of suicide through their helpline, which can be reached at 11612, free and available 24/7. Our local organizations, we have local mental health associations. Many areas have local chapters of national mental health organizations like NAMI or MAH, which offer support groups, education, and local resources. Community mental health centers. Those centers often provide counseling and other mental health services on a sliding scale based on income. Hospitals and universities. Many hospitals have associated mental health clinics that offer psychiatric services. Universities often have mental health resources for their students and sometimes the general public. And online therapy platforms. BetterHelp provides online counseling and therapy sessions services for licensed therapists, and Talkspace, another platform that offers online therapy with licensed mental health therapists. It's important for those that can help to check the availability and suitability of those resources and these resources that I have mentioned based on their specific location and needs. Local healthcare providers like a family doctor can also provide referrals to local mental health resources and professionals. One thing I did talk about at our Can We Talk Symposium is federal qualified health centers. Go to your local federal qualified health center and see if you qualify for mental health services and other primary care physicians too as well. As I used to work in a federal qualified health center, so you can receive, whether you receive low income or no income, so you can get the access and the necessary qualified care in which you need in any mental health issue. Amen. And we do provide some type of mobile services too for those in the rural area too as well. Any questions at this time? Jessica or Lamar? I know that was a lot.
No questions. I definitely support and agree in regards to the federally qualified health clinics because they cannot turn away anyone when
At
offering
all.
those services. Exactly. So I'm definitely aware of those programs.
Thank you so much, Jessica. You know I'm gonna heart you. I'm gonna have a big heart on now. Lamar?
That was Lamora.
Yes, that was Lamora.
Mm. Oh, I'm sorry. Jessica?
That's okay.
Yeah, no, nothing to add. I was just gonna say, how do we stay connected with you after the show? The show is available. Is it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify?
It's gonna be everywhere. Not Spotify. I don't think I applied to Spotify, but most platforms it is, and I can just drop you the link too as well once I go ahead and just download it and everything too as well.
Awesome, great.
Yes. So go ahead, Jessica. Drop your Instagram, and also Lamar, drop your Instagram or whatever social media you guys are on, so I can make sure that we have attention. And don't forget, we're in a symposium. Tell them how great this podcast was, because guess what? Anybody else doing the podcast besides me?
No, not that I'm aware of.
That part.
Not at all. Yes, I think it's amazing. I also
Because
want to
guess
say
what?
that
I gave those. I do apologize, Lamar. I gave those informations because I am international in my podcast, so I talk to UK and Switzerland and all across the global world. I'm just not in America.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I was going to say I also shared the link to the Mental Health Awareness Month website where
Hmm.
individuals can access the resource guide.
And I
So
would
that's
drop
something
that
that you
in
can
the
download as
actual.
well.
Yeah, I would drop that in the actual copy. I'll drop that in the actual thing too as well when we post this podcast too as well. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right. So we just want to highlight the key insights from the discussion. Jessica, what is your aha moment from this with this discussion? I want to keep you guys long because I know we probably over the minutes or whatever, but guess what? I don't care because I love to talk about mental health awareness and the stigma. So let's go ahead and close out with our aha moments.
Honestly, aha moment in general is just the fact that you were able to leverage the Hoover app platform to say, hey, let's throw a podcast together and let's come together and talk before the symposium. So just the fact that you were so innovative in creating this was probably my takeaway.
Oh, I'm gonna get a big heart now. You gonna have me with a big old heart like I heart Jessica. Go ahead, a little more. I do apologize, but she's just giving me a heart.
So it may not really be a aha moment, but my moment was just the fact when we talk about influence in an effort to really just promote mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of it is the influence and you giving us an opportunity to just share on your platform, because that's
Mm-hmm.
something that most people don't do. They're not, open to that unless you are of influence yourself. And so just the mere fact that you are opening this up and giving us an opportunity to do so is really important. And I think that that's something that should also be recognized.
Yeah, I know y'all gonna make me cry in a small way. I'm not a crybaby, but I love to make sure that, and I think people don't are not so aware of what we need in our world, specifically for the greater good. And I really mean that. What does that mean for the greater
Right.
good? Um, I'm so much for the greater good. That it's just my agenda every time. And most people look at me and say, "Oh well, what are you trying to gain out of this?" I'm not trying to gain anything. Because guess what? What happens if I gain nothing?
Right. That's right.
So guess what? I start with the greater good. Just by y'all being on here is the greater good. And we're speaking out about mental health. That's the greater good. Did I ask y'all for any money?
You didn't.
That part.
None.
That is, I don't want that. My thing is, guess what? It's gonna come to me regardless of what we talk about. Specifically, if I do what I'm supposed to do for the kingdom of God, that's it. That's it. That's it for me. For those who don't have faith, you have faith in something. So at the end of the day, what is that faith, and what does it look like for you specifically? Um, but my faith is in God and making sure that God has control of every event that I host, every event that I do, and every event that's in a place where we are making a change and making an effort in increasing or decreasing something. Amen. So a lot of
Amen.
things we want to talk about because I don't want us to leave this here, but I want us to make sure that we propose number one is a regular podcast of people coming in and doing this thing. I have this open platform. This platform is wide open. Did y'all hear me? This platform is wide open. I want to make sure that the questions encourage and reflect and invite personal connections. I want to be sensitive to the diversity of experiences related to the mental health and also encourage listeners to educate themselves about mental health beyond this podcast. That's my goal. That's my goal. I didn't ask y'all for no donations. I didn't ask y'all to pay me anything. Because guess what? The payment was in your word. The payment was in your voice as we continue. And this will hit all platforms. Like I said, once again, I'm Jeremy B. Sims. I'm actually in international platforms, not just America. I'm in international platforms where I have well over 35,000 listeners and making sure that we are being able to address and discuss mental health in an audio environment. Any questions before we leave? And I know you guys have some more things that you want to say too as well.
No questions from me. Thank you.
I don't
No
know why I
questions for me
can't
either.
grab.
I appreciate you again.
No. I wish more people join. So I want people to definitely tag us in the symposium and talk about what this is about and things like that too as well. So thank you, Jessica Smith and Lamora, for joining us and other people that were listening. And if you were listening, just make sure you drop in the chat at the app that we're using for the symposium. Can we talk symposium and how you enjoyed this too as well? As we leave today, I want us to take away what? Blessings. I want us to take everything away that we have, that we are adjusted to, but also remember that guess what? God is in control no matter what. Whether you believe in God or not, you have faith in someone. So guess what? Continue your faith. Whether you're a universalist or whatever religion or faith you believe in, guess what? You can control your mental health, whether it's by medicine, by awareness, or just by talking. You are responsible for your mental health. It is yours, and it's yours to keep. Start unlearning things and move forward to making wellness in your mental health. Have a good night and goodbye.